Hey guys, I wanted to showcase my build for this league. It is a Poison Ice Shot Pathfinder. I wanted to play with Vol Ice Shot as soon as it came out, but I opted to do Vol Lightning Arrow instead and do Vol Ice Shot this league instead. Vol Lightning Arrow was pretty lackluster, but Vol Ice Shot is pretty damn nice. I decided I wanted to go Pathfinder again because I love the Pathfinder's Flask Ascendancies, and I feel like Pathfinders have better general survivability, which I personally like to favor over straight DPS. Since I chose Pathfinder, I kind of felt like I had to go Poison, so I actually started the league as a Poisonous Concoction Pathfinder, which was pretty buttery smooth and easy leveling, and swapped over to Ice Shot once I had enough money to transition, and it honestly didn't cost much to transition at all. For gear, the only mandatory thing to make this build work is Volker's gloves. The way poison works is if you have any percent chance to poison, only your physical and chaos damage will cause that poison damage to proc. However, with these gloves and its variants, your fire, cold, and lightning damage can also proc that poison as well. So that's how I get my ice shot to poison. I've also converted all my physical damage to cold through the tree and the gem itself. For my bow, I have this beastly 6 link that I bought for many divines. It has about 1k flat cold DPS after factoring in the fist to cold conversion and the attack speed. It's got increased damage with poison and a whopping 36% chance to deal double damage while focused, which is awesome because I just bind my focus to my left click and it automatically activates while I'm walking. On my quiver, I focused on DPS with just added lightning res as my main defensive stat. I also have additional arrow on this. Since quivers can roll this mod, I prioritized finding a quiver that had it. My chest piece is mainly defensive. The lightning coil is awesome at mitigating physical damage taken, and it's just so good. The only downside, honestly, is you have to get extra lightning res. For my helmet, I focused on life res and spell suppression, and I managed to get the 40% ice shot damage enchant, which is a nice damage boost, and the attack damage boost from the E-cores. And the reduced mana cost from Embers was just for quality of life. I could have opted for fizz damage taken as fire, but I decided not to because I felt like I didn't need it. For my boots, I tried to get life, res, spell suppression, and instead of 100% chance to avoid being frozen, I opted to get 100% chance to avoid being chilled, since I get freeze immunity through my Pantheon. And of course, the plus 30% movement speed is pretty sweet. Lastly, I crafted strength and int on it to help with the stat requirements. For my amulet, I tried to juice out as much res as possible, including using prismatic catalyst for maximum juicing. I actually bought this from multiple divine. It's also got a cool 60% increased damage boost, and I crafted -7 mana cost for quality of life. I also enchanted Whispers of Doom on the amulet so I can apply a second curse, which is a huge damage boost. For my rings, I have one as the Taming because it just generally works out pretty nicely for my build. It's got a ton of damage boost and resistances. I bought this corrupted version that gives me bleed immunity, which is pretty cool. My other ring, I have frostbite on hit, which is absolutely amazing for quality of life and damage. I also have a little bit of DPS and accuracy on there as well, and I crafted -7 mana cost for more quality of life. Lastly, my Stygian belt is just focused on life and resistances, and I got a little bit of strength on there as well to help with stat requirements. The Abyssal Jewel on my belt just has life damage and lightning rest to help maintain my lightning coil. And for my flask setup, I have Quicksilver with percent life regen, Life Flask with hinder and maim immunity, Silver Flask, which gives me Onslaught with charges gained on hit and percent life regen during the flask effect, Taste of Hate, and a Topaz Flask with increased effect and reduced effect curses on me. Alright, so for gem links on my bow, I have linked Vol Ice Shot, Mirage Archer, Awakened Added Cold, Returning Projectiles, Unbound Ailments, and Elemental Damage with attacks. If I wanted to start this build off as Ice Shot instead, I'd just roll with the first 4 links, which is Ice Shot, Mirage Archer, Added Cold, and Returning Proj. I'd use that to level with and add the rest as I upgrade my gear. On my chest, I have linked Ice Shot, Ballista Totem, Focus Ballista, Returning Projectiles, Barrage Support, and Awakened Added Cold. This is huge for our single DPS, this totem setup. On my helmet, I have level 3 Enlighten linked to Hatred for DPS, Grace for survivability, and Herald of Agony for DPS and chance to poison. On my Volker's gloves, I have small defensive tech through cast when damage taken and Immortal Call. And I threw my Flame Dash on there for my preferred choice of mobility and Defiance Banner for survivability. Lastly, on my boots, I have just the utility tech in the form of Monoforged arrows linked to Frenzy, which fires a Frenzy arrow every time I cast my Ice Shot. This generates free Frenzy charges for me. And I also have linked Mark on Hit with Sniper's Mark, so that every enemy I hit is automatically cursed with Sniper's Mark. And this is lovely when considering enemies are also cursed with Frostbite on hit because of my ring. Right, so here's my character, level 95 Starlight Ancestor. My build isn't too crazy. I started off leveling with Poisonous Concoction, so I branched into Flask nodes like Replenishing Remedies, Field Medicine, and Heart of Oak, which you end up leaving on your final tree anyways. While leveling, I also picked up Chance to Poison on hit and poison damage with multiplier like Toxic Strikes, Swift Venoms, and Fatal Toxins. The latter two we end up keeping on our final tree. Other than that, I generally get life where convenient, bow damage nodes, and spell suppression. I've also spec'd into watchtowers for totem DPS and +1 totems. I have a large ringed Thread of Hope so that I can pick up Quick Step, One with Nature, Aspect of the Eagle, Primeval Force, all of which give me DPS, resistances, and spell suppression. I use it to also pick up Master Fletcher and Multi-Shot for 2 additional arrows, which is absolutely huge. And lastly, I use it to pick up Piercing Shots for some help with clearing packs more easily. For my masteries, I have Cold Mastery for Fizz to Cold conversion, Flask Mastery for survivability, Spell Suppression Mastery so we don't have to focus too much on spell suppression on gear, Poison Mastery, which makes it so enemies that are poisoned by me can't deal critical strikes, Mana Mastery to help with aura reservation efficiency, Mark Mastery to prevent marked enemies from regenerating health, and Accuracy Mastery to boost our accuracy. One major point of this tree is that we do allocate precise techniques, which is a huge boost in damage as long as our accuracy rating is above our HP value. I currently have about 2900 main hand accuracy rating and about 2700 health. So now I have 40% more attack damage. And I did an experiment and tried to spec into crit instead of accuracy, and in the end I ended up doing less damage with crit with this specific build, so instead I stuck with accuracy. The downside of precise technique is that you can never deal critical strikes, which is fine because this build does more damage without crits than with it. This is also why I prioritize getting accuracy on my gear. And I have a large cluster jewel with Feed the Fury, which is DPS plus Life Leech, Fuel the Fight, which is DPS plus Mana Leech, and Heavy Hitter, which is DPS plus more DPS while leeching. I also have a medium cluster jewel with Special Reserve, which gives damage and percent life regen during any flask effect, and Spiked Concoction, which gives attack speed, cast speed, increased flask effect, and increased flask charges gained, all of which applies during any flask effect. I used to have an inspired learning jewel over here in this jewel socket with the tree spec'd differently to cater to it, but I've opted to use this jewel instead which gives life and res, but more importantly is corrupted to grant me immunity to corrupted blood. This, coupled with my Abyssal Jewel on my belt, gives me a nice duo of immunity to corrupted blood and immunity to bleeding. Lastly, on my tree, I have the Forbidden Flesh and Forbidden Flame combo to give me Occupying Force, which lets me have multiple Mirage Archers, which is a huge boost to our DPS. And if I were pooping currency, then I'd probably get Avatar of Chase, Avatar of Slaughter, Wind Ward, or even Master Alchemist instead. My Ascendancies are Nature's Adrenaline, Master Toxicist, Nature's Reprisal, and Nature's Boon. And for Bandits, you want to kill them all, and for Pantheon, you want to max out Brine King, and your secondary Pantheon can be whatever is catered for your specific needs. Alright, so that being said, all in all, pretty decent build, not too bad, 1 mil plus DPS on the Path of Building tooltip. It's not bad, it was a lot of fun. I really got to try out Vol Ice Shot, and I like it a lot better than Vol Lightning Arrow. So yeah, see you guys next time.